Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday and happy 2025. I hope you had a happy holiday season. The end of your year was better than how the markets performed. The markets didn't quite end the year nearly as strong as they started them, but like we mentioned last week, our plan on this week's video is to recap some of the prevailing themes that drove the markets in 2024. So without further ado, so we can get you kickstarted for your weekend and for your new year, let's dive right in at theme number 3, and that's defense spending and geopolitical conflicts. Now, this past year, similar to previous years before this, has been rife with geopolitical conflicts and ongoing tensions throughout the world, as we've seen in Europe via the Ukraine-Russian war, as well as ongoing conflicts in Israel and the Middle East. Now, what this has done is created a boon for the future of defense spending, as the evolution of war has now developed rather from necessarily tanks and missiles and rifles and soldiers to now a more automated approach via drones and cybersecurity, also making their way into the battlefield. And one of the most perfect examples of this is one of the best performers of the S&P 500 over this past year, and that is the AI software company Palantir, who also happens to do quite a bit of work with the U.S. Department of Defense. Palantir was up over 350% in 2024. So this is as good of an indication as anything that AI and cybersecurity are going to further permeate their way into the geopolitical landscape. At theme number 2, it's crypto. So as most of you probably saw, Bitcoin soared above $100,000 per coin in 2024. Now, in previous years, some people would have called you crazy if you thought it was going to get to these levels, but here we are. Now, the main driver of that still at this day and age is speculation. Whether or not that this can be used as a viable means of exchange is still up for debate, because while the coin did soar this past year, it was rife with scams and conflicts itself, as numerous influencers or other marketers came out with their own coins, and then people lost everything by investing in them. Perfect example is the Haktua coin, if you would find it so funny. Now, once again, until there is some type of maybe regulation or oversight to Bitcoin or to cryptocurrency in general, it's going to be hard to see this really create traction in terms of viable transactions going forward in the economy. But if you've been a holder of crypto for a long time and you've been holding Bitcoin, you're sitting pretty in 2025. And finally, point number 1, you all probably could have guessed this, it is AI. We've been talking about that for a while, but AI continues to be the prevailing theme in the market, at least ending through 2024. We'll see if that's going to change in 2025. But just to recap, OpenAI came out with their chatbot earlier in the year, and it pretty much blew the doors wide open. You had the majority of public companies and private companies investing heavily in AI and trying to find ways to monetize and create more efficiencies in their workflow with that. You're seeing the major tech companies, the Googles, Metas, Apples, Microsofts, spending heavily to try to get this implemented and get this monetized. So as we've seen from discussions from leadership and from other public company executives, the plan is to keep spending and keep spending until they can properly monetize this AI. Almost 2/3 of companies in the United States are trying to find a way to get this implemented and are using it on a day-to-day basis. And even 1/3 of Americans have come out and said that they use it on a day-to-day basis at this point. Now, that might be on the more rudimentary side of utilizing ChatGPT's chatbot or Gemini or anything like that. But the sky is the limit as to how they can try to get this implemented and who could find the next big, essentially, tech innovation on how to create efficiencies through automation and AI going forward. So I wouldn't say that the theme is quite over yet, and it's quite a secular tailwind going forward for the next couple of years as these companies continue to spend. Now that wraps up the 3 major themes that drove this past year. What are we looking to for next week? And what are we looking to really for the year ahead? Well, next week, it's going to be a little bit more muted. We're looking at economic data, primarily labor market data in the JOLTS report. We also have former President Jimmy Carter's funeral on Thursday. So the equity markets will be closed on January 9th. Now for 2025 on a whole, we are looking more towards trade policy on the new Trump administration. But as always, if you have additional questions, please reach out to your financial advisor or dig into the written week in review. We'll see you the same time next week. Thanks again. Bye.